Namaskaram. Learn Malayalam with Telugu Swagada. I have a special guest today. I'm very excited to discuss this amazing feature that was shared with me, where we follow this interesting subject as he travels across South India and makes a dictionary out of Dravidian languages. And today I'm speaking with the man behind the whole operation of this film, Nandan, and he has released A Dreaming of Words. It's a fascinating story about a fascinating person, Mr. Sreedharan, who had traveled and worked for 25 years to compile a dictionary across 4 Dravidian languages: Malayalam, Kannada, Tamil, and Telugu. I have Nandan. Swagatam. Welcome to the channel.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. So tell me a bit about yourself. Was this your first film, or how long have you been working in the film industry? How long have you been a filmmaker?
This is my second film, actually. I've done a short film before. It's called Shwasam, Breath. So I've been working in the film industry for quite a few years. I've been working as an assistant director in a lot of advertisements, and I've done a lot of Bollywood films and Malayalam films. So I've been working mostly in Mumbai. So this is my second independent film.
And then are you based out of Kerala now?
Yes, I'm based in Kerala.
All right. So this brings up an interesting point. Do you feel that regional movies, we have a lot of Mollywood film, we have a lot of, Tollywood, Collywood, Sandalwood in fiction, but do you feel that there needs to be more documentaries and kind of informational type of movies in regional languages?
Yes, I think we should make more fiction films. But what happens is, compared to the mainstream commercial cinema, the non-fiction films in any languages are very less, especially in India. When you see in India, the non-fiction films are very less. In Europe, if you see, or even in the US, non-fiction films get a proper theatrical release over there. But here, they don't get a theatrical release. So we need to make more and more non-fiction films. Definitely, we have a lot of stories here which needs to be told. So I believe we should make more non-fiction films and more documentary films in Malayalam, Tamil, Bengali, and all of the languages.
So talking about a story, let's discuss the subject of your film. How did you find out about this person and their amazing task of traveling and documenting languages, and what motivated you to pursue that story?
Well, actually, I was working as a civil engineer in Bangalore. So when I was in Bangalore, since I'm from Kerala, I know Malayalam, and I also know Tamil. So when I went to Bangalore, I learned Kannada. So because I was working there, I learned Kannada as well, and a little bit of Telugu as well. So that time I was looking for a dictionary that connects these 4 languages. That time I couldn't find a dictionary that connects these 4 languages. So it was very strange. And then when I went to Mumbai and then I started working in films, and then when I decided to make a documentary, I was actually looking for subjects. And then when I was in Kerala, I read in a local newspaper about this man, Njattyela Sreedharan. So I read that he had compiled a dictionary connecting these 4 languages, and it took him 25 years to complete it. And then I contacted the newspaper, and then I got in touch with him. I spoke with him. I went to his house and I spoke with him, and then I came to know that dictionary was never published, even though it took him. So when I first met him, it was not published. So even though it took him 25 years of his life learning these languages and compiling this dictionary, the dictionary was not published. So I thought the story must be told. So that's how I decided to make a film about Mr. Njattyela Sreedharan and his work.
Fantastic. And so how did you go about, when someone is an independent filmmaker, obviously you have to do a lot of the legwork on your own and financing and these kinds of things. But it seems like your project was picked up and supported by UNESCO. Is that what happened?
Actually, in the beginning, I did a little bit of crowdfunding, and then I did my own funding. I became my own producer. So what happened was, after the film was made, I got a lot of support for screening the film, like a lot of organization. Like the first premiere happened in Delhi. So that was an event supported by the Indira Gandhi National Centre for the Arts and the Government of India and the UNESCO Delhi. So that's where the world premiere of the film happened. So from there on, I got a lot of support from all these organizations. What was so surprising was that I got a lot of support from the linguistic community, the academic organization, and the universities, various universities. So it was screened at the annual conference of the Linguistic Society of America and at the annual convention of the Modern Language Association. So they are considered a great honor. Like when you publish a paper, when you present the paper at the Conference of Linguistic Society of America, that's considered a great honor. So all these organizations supported a lot.
Would you say that the reception outside of India has been equally positive or interesting as it has been inside India, or even would you say it's more so than inside India?
It's more. So outside, the reception for the film abroad has been more than in India. Maybe in a lot of festivals, it was screened in a lot of festivals abroad. One of the reasons was because of COVID. A lot of festivals were not happening in India that time. But even then, from the common people, it got a lot of appreciation from India. In July, it's being screened in Germany at the European Association of Lexicography. So they're screening it in the University of Mannheim. So that's a great honor. And considering the fact that he is Mr. Njattyela Sreedharan dropped out of school from the fourth standard. So when his work is being screened in all these universities, it's a great honor for him, and it's a recognition for his work as well.
It definitely shows. Yeah, it definitely shows that there's different ways of education, different ways to show, passion and learning and awareness about the world. So that's really incredible that, it doesn't necessarily follow this, you go to university, you study linguistics and you do this great thing. Sometimes you just kind of feel something and go for it.
Yeah, that's it. That's something that when you love a language, you just learn it. A lot of the great linguists, like we had a great linguist in Kerala, Mr. Benjamin Bailey. I think he was Scottish. So that was the first dictionary in Malayalam was written by that person. And also a lot of work in Malayalam has been done by Herman Gundert. So Herman Gundert was a German missionary. He used to live in Talasheri. That way, it's really interesting. So, and this was this aspect of the film connected really well with linguistic community everywhere, because they were all able to connect with that passion for language.
I was going to say it's quite neat that it's being screened in Germany, considering the linguistic connection between Germany and Kerala and like how much there's there. And even now in University of Tübingen, where I'm taking some courses, they have the Gundert chair where they bring a Malayalam professor from Kerala to work in Germany. So that's quite fantastic. And yeah, that's just wonderful to see it take a global stage, and because the Dravidian language family is very special, and if you meet people in America or in other countries, there's this generalization of the languages spoken in India being related to Hindi or being part of the Indo-European language family. So it's great to see this kind of movement that you see linguistically discussing the Dravidian language family and how they're related and how they're different. And I think that studying the languages together like this kind of helps show how more they're alike. Often I get comments about how Malayalam is, like just yesterday, someone had told me, Malayalam is 50% Sanskrit and 50% Tamil. And I was like, no, not at all. So there's things like this can help improve people's awareness and then bring information out there, and also just instill that kind of pride in language and culture and background. So I think that's going to be really meaningful to people who watch this film, especially coming from these regions that speak these languages.
And actually, when you watch this film, we know that multilingualism is the only way forward in India, I believe, because we have all these wonderful languages and we need to know more about the neighboring states, and that's what we need to know. We know more about Europe and US. We know what is happening there. We know their culture, but we need to be able to connect with the neighboring states. So that's very necessary, I think. And we don't have one single representation of the country, because as you know, like we have great writers like Rabindranath Tagore. He won a Nobel Prize, but he wrote in Bengali. So, and we have Satyajit Ray who won an Oscar. he made films in Bengali, and India's national anthem is in Bengali. So it's a different kind of thing. So that's not in Hindi. So every language is important. Hindi is also important in every language. So I think multilingualism is the way forward, I think. So that's something that this film discusses about.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting because I was just discussing the other day how some communities can improve is their own advocacy for their language. For example, the Tamils are extremely proud of their language and they protect it, and they want to make sure that in any new words, they have a Tamil, correlation to it, and they want to protect their history and their literature. And I feel that other states too can work on improving that. Malayalam, I think that while Malayalis are proud of being Malayali and they like to talk about their movies and their culture, I still think there's a lot of space to kind of help promote the language more and kind of like instill that love of Malayalam and Malayalam literature. If you go into a lot of schools in Kerala, you'll find that a lot of the texts are in English, or the Malayalam has been translated into English, or people will speak Malayalam but not be able to read it. So I think that these kinds of films about language and the celebration of it and the importance of it can kind of help kindle that love for the mother tongue. Because now in this society, as you said, multilingualism is the way forward. We don't have to do everything in English. You can find YouTube channels, podcasts, and anything online in your mother tongue. And if it doesn't exist, you can make it. So I think that what your work here is doing is bringing forth this figure who can take that message to the next generation. If it doesn't exist, you should make it, which is a really powerful message.
Definitely, yeah. Because I think when we talk about the preservation of culture, we usually consider archaeological sites and all that kind of culture. But language is the most important part of culture. I think in Europe and everywhere else, they understand that, and I think we need to take care of the languages more, because I think India is a cultural hotspot. It's a linguistic hotspot as well. We have a lot of languages. So I think we need to be proud about the languages. At the same time, we need to learn other languages and be able to connect and improve our own language.
Right. I think another thing to think about is that schools and other organizations can only do as much as resources allow. And so if there's not a lot of funding for, mother tongue medium classes, or if there's not a lot of training or modernization of pedagogy for teachers, it makes it difficult to bridge that gap between the level of things we receive in English and Hindi versus what we receive in our mother tongue. And so it is kind of a community issue. So on one hand, yes, we should be proud of the language. And on the other hand, we should demand more from the government and the community to provide those resources to help us preserve that. So it is a very complex and complicated issue. And in a very diverse and huge country such as India, allocating those resources and funds can be challenging and obviously very political. So it gets sticky. So let's talk a bit more about your film. I'm really curious. I've never really made a film. You're my first filmmaker that I'm interviewing for the channel. So I'd like to know a little bit more about your process. So you were working in this situation and you wanted to find a dictionary and you heard about the works. And so did you know that you wanted to make a film about it, or how did you contact him first, or what was the process in that? And what was the timeline like? How much time did it take?
It took a lot of time. It took more than a year before even actually deciding to make the film. I contacted him, I spoke with him, and I went to his place. And we spoke about the languages. So that's when I came to know that the dictionary was never published. So it got to another level, because it's not just about writing a dictionary. Even after doing all this, because he had to face a lot of difficulties for publishing the dictionary, just because he didn't have a PhD or a doctorate. So the fact that he is a first standard dropout got in the way of publishing the dictionary and got in the way of getting recognition. So it became very complicated. So when I was speaking with him, I found that he's a very interesting person. So I tried to step away from the film as much as possible. So what I tried to do is I tried to find the people who are connected with his story. So there were people who helped him learn these languages, Sitaram Master, Usha, teacher. She is in Tamil Nadu, so she taught him Tamil. And Sitaram Master helped him with Kannada. So and there was Mr. P.K. Poker. He was the former director of the State Institute of Languages, Kerala. So he decided to publish the Tamil Malayalam version in 2011. And then I met Dr. K.P. Mohanan. He was the secretary of the Kerala Literature Academy. So one manuscript of the book is still there at Kerala Literature Academy. So I decided to speak with all of them, and also writer and advocate, Mr. K.K. So I decided to speak with all of them, and from them I tried to collect their opinions, and I've tried to form a film out of their opinions. And also I've tried to recreate his travel to Tamil Nadu, because Usha teacher is in Tamil Nadu, in Tirunelveli. So we went to Tamil Nadu and we captured that journey as well. So that's how we've done. We haven't used a narration, so that we are not. So I never tried to impose my ideas on the film. You can't even hear the questions that I ask. So you directly, as an audience, you can just feel, you can hear everything directly from the characters, and that's how I've done the documentary. And we worked in a very small group that actually helped the film. This is a very personal connect with
very
the
intimate,
characters.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Very intimate, and they're not actors. They're just real people. So they're not acting. Whatever they're saying, it's true. So that was so great, and I tried to capture the passion that he has for these languages. To do something for 25 years, to do this kind of a work. We know that Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Kannada, these large states, and these languages are so vast languages. And to do this kind of a work for 25 years, you need that kind of a passion. So you can start something like this, but to finish it, to hold on to it, you need immense amount of passion. So I've tried to capture that passion that he has. So I think I was quite successful in doing that.
Yeah, and usually if you're around someone with passion like that, it's contagious, right? You start feeling like, oh yeah, I can see why you love this work so much. And I feel strongly about it too, just hearing, someone talk about it. So I'm sure that gets passed on into the audience as well. Now, you filmed extensively in Tamil Nadu. What were some of your favorite experiences there, or some of your favorite scenes? I traveled to Tamil Nadu back in 2017, and I think that Madurai is probably one of my favorite places in South India, just because there is so much history and culture and a lot of things going around there. So like, what were some of your favorite places or moments in Tamil Nadu?
I've traveled a lot in Tamil Nadu, but for this particular documentary, I got to travel to Tirunelveli for the first time. So Tirunelveli was a very interesting place, and near the Malayalam temple. Was all interesting. So the idea behind this is that if you need to learn a language of a place, you need to learn that culture as well. Mm-hmm. So you can't just learn a language, you need to know that culture as well. So when he traveled to Kannada, Tamil Nadu, we tried to learn that culture as well. So we tried to capture a little bit of that culture as well into the film. So in Tirunelveli, halwa is very famous. Halwa is a sweet. So they serve it opposite the temple exactly at 5 o'clock. The shop opens at 5 o'clock. So people are lined up in front of that shop to buy halwa. So that was a very interesting sight. And that happened before, we shot it before COVID. So we had a lot of people waiting in line to buy halwa. And they were waiting for that exact moment when the doors will open at 5 o'clock. So we shot that and we incorporated that in the film. That was very interesting. And that shows a lot about the cultural aspects of that. Cultural aspect of India, actually. That street is actually an Indian street. So interesting. So happy I was able to shoot it.
That sounds fantastic. Absolutely. I find that the interesting pockets of language are where general borders start to meet. So as you know, in Kasaragod, the Malayalam there starts to blend with neighboring languages. And so you kind of have this crossover. And I think in Tamil Nadu, you have the same, as you go throughout. And it's just really neat because these borders have not always been there, so language doesn't just exist within this box. And I think that's why it's so great to have these comparative analyses, because like I said before, you just see the similarities, you see where things join and where things, and even within one language, it's not going to be the same in every section. Like I did a video with someone who does Telugu content, and people were arguing over the word potato. And there's a group of people who speak Telugu in one region that have a completely different word than in this region. And so they were like, oh, this is not the only way to say potato, So I can understand why it took 25 years to do what he did, because there's just so much. And, in the time that he was working in, you can't just Google it. You can't just find, a translation or anything. You have to literally go and meet the people. But in that kind of way, that just makes it more meaningful. I think that's just incredible.
He has meanings for the same word. So if a same word has different meanings in different parts of the state, like northern Kerala, southern Kerala, there are different words for the same. So he has incorporated all that in the dictionary. So for some words, you'll find everything. Like even there's a lot of difference between language, like the northern Malayalam and the southern Malayalam. And even Kannada, the southern Kannada and the northern Kannada, is so different. It's all different.
Absolutely. So Malayalam is your mother tongue, right?
Yes.
And how many other languages do you speak?
I speak Tamil, Hindi, Kannada.
That's great.
And English and a little bit of Telugu.
Nice. That's really exciting. I'm about to go to Andhra Pradesh. We're going to Kerala next week, and then we'll go to Andhra Pradesh. So that's my first time visiting a Telugu-speaking state. So I'm very excited to hear it and see it, and just, all the scripts are so fascinating and so cool. I'm really looking forward to that. If I learn another Indian language, it would probably be Tamil. Just because, it's so ancient and it's so cultural, and, all the great music in Tamil. And,
yes.
It's just, I really love how there is like this population of Malayalis that just really enjoy Tamil poetry and Tamil music, and they like writing in it and things. And I'm glad to see that appreciation toward the language and the culture, because often you see this other community where there's a bit of a friction between the two. So, but language can be the thing that brings us together.
I really love Tamil. Tamil is a wonderful language. I learned how to read and write in Tamil.
Yeah.
I watched films and I learned Tamil. Tamil is a wonderful language.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tamil, the language itself is music.
It is. So it is. Like once I started hearing it and knowing it, then whenever someone would play like a movie in the background, I could just pick it up, just the musicality. I'm like, oh, that's a Tamil movie. It's just, yeah, I feel that, this is an outsider's perspective, but Malayalam to me sounds very sarcastic. Like when people are speaking it, like sometimes if someone's giving me a compliment, I don't even know if I should trust it, because it's like, are you being sarcastic with me? Malayalis are really good at joking around and like making these like snappy remarks. But when I hear a Tamil person speak, again, this is a generalization, it just to me sounds very sweet and very like, one of my best friends is Tamil, and I was introduced to her mom and her family members, and it's just, I have such positive associations with it. I have positive associations with Malayalam too, but it's just, what I'm getting at.
Tamil is really sweet.
Yeah.
And even the places are so sweet. If you go to Tirunelveli or it's like so sweet. The vibe is so sweet.
Yeah, I really liked Madurai. I also went to Trichy, and I just have fond memories of like the big temples. And then in Madurai, you get the Jigatanda, the cold sweets. And it was really, really a good experience. And I wish more people would go to South India. Coming back to your film, something like this is really going to help appreciate and understand these diversities. If these are going in film circuits, it's going to expose people, I think, to more of this and make them curious about it, and perhaps open up more opportunities for people to learn about the languages and the cultures that they're contained in. All right, so let's wrap things up. Tell me, where can we watch your movie? Where can we stream it, download it? We want to see it, so where can we find it?
So for the viewers in US and UK, they can watch it on Amazon Prime Video. And that's only available in the US and UK for now. And for the rest, they can watch it on Movie Saints. That's an Indian platform. So it's available on Movie Saints and it's available on Cave. And it's also available on Gumroad. And also will be available on platforms soon.
So again, this is filmmaker Nandan, and he has released Dreaming of Words. And as he said, it's available on streaming platforms. So keep an eye out for it on Amazon Prime, Gumroad, Movie Saints, and do check it out. It's a fascinating story about a fascinating person. If you're into language, if you're into India, if you're into stories of amazing individuals, this is definitely going to be a film you and your friends will enjoy. So check it out, and I'm looking forward to seeing. Do you have anything coming up?
I might actually start on a film, but right now I've been working on a book right now. It's a children's novel, Akasha Bandhu. So I recently published it. So I'm working on the English translation of that same book. So it will be published as The Dream of the Loon.
So this is a Malayalam children's novel?
Yes.
Oh, great. I definitely want to see that. Please, I'd like a copy of that one to help with my reading skills.
Yeah, definitely. I'll send that to you. And it's
That's
a children's novel. It's a fantasy.
That's so exciting. For sure. All right. Well, thank you so much. And we'll be sure to check everything out. I'll put all the links where you can find Dreaming of Words down here. And I'd love to hear your feedback. So until next time, Filmmaker.
Thank you. Thank you so much.